Okay, and we are live again. It's Monday, almost 6. I will try to navigate a bit this window here. It should work fine. Okay, as always, let me copy.
Krzysztof, now I see Prognetics profile on GitHub.
And you
I
should.
know it. Okay.
That's the correct window. Yep, that's what you should be seeing because, as I mentioned, I think that we should first talk about, well, the backlog. So basically we have created the backlog. I just moved everything from the Word document that we created last time to the projects on GitHub. I don't know, did you get like an invite or something to join here? Because I think I did send it.
Okay, I will check.
I sent it directly to your don't really like to type passwords like that.
Okay, I've just joined. So yeah, I see the profile and I see my avatar below.
Okay.
People headers. So I'm in.
Okay, perfect. So now going back to navigating around this, we have projects. Can you see the project in the projects?
Yes, I can see.
The prognetics.saga. Okay. So first things first, I was wondering about which type of view we can use here. I'm more used to the DevOps, but let's work around it. Let's first try to, maybe I would prioritize a bit. So I think that first we should talk in which order we'll be, because I don't want to go like Scrum based, because we cannot do Scrums because, well, we are not doing any time frames, and I wouldn't say that we really would like to do any time frames for deliverables or goals in this manner. I would do well, more of a Kanban style, maybe. I would just drag and drop
Yes.
everything. So on the to-dos and in progress and to done, and I would probably go more towards this way. So I imagine that the Git repository being first and initiate the project is actually correct, but I wanted to discuss one thing with you, which is, should we create a mono repo for this? Should the orchestrator, the RabbitMQ, and the parsers be in a single repository, or should we break it down to orchestrator being in a different one, and MQ or something to work with the queue in another one, and parser in another one?
I remember that there is a way to compose it into one repo, but we have actually separate repos. You are familiar with it?
Nope, never seen something like that.
Okay. So maybe I will quickly check if I'm right.
If not, well, I will maybe explain to you how I see it as a mono repo then. Or maybe I will in the meantime while you're searching my idea for this. So I would probably not break it down to every single one. Maybe we can check ASP.NET GitHub. Maybe this is the idea that you have. maybe first I will describe mine. I would create a single repository, so monorepo, and I would call it prognetics.saga, and then inside I would create different projects inside the single solution. So the solution would be prognetics.saga, and then inside we would have different projects named Saga Orchestrator, Saga RabbitMQ, and Parser, JSON, etc., etc. So we could create a structure like this: solution. Whoop, not like that. Solution, and inside the solution we could do our orchestrator as more of a folder structure. It's annoying that okay, it does do that. So orchestrator and queue integrations and parsers, and inside the folders I would create then. It's annoying that the tab is not working as I would like it to work. And inside this one I would do
okay, so I haven't found this solution I mentioned. So let's go with one repo, I think, and we can separate into multiple repositories later.
I mean, we could, but what I wanted to discuss with you is more about having this like that. So it's not displayed as I would like it to be, but let's see how .NET is doing it, because they have source and then they have, for example, this is what I would do. So we would have .NET, or in this case we would have prognetics / prognetics.saga, and we would have the source code here, probably as a solution. As a solution level, the solutions are probably on top in here or not. They're built. It was some time since I was last time I was here. Okay, there is the solution. So I would do in a similar way. I would enhance kinda the folder structure, or make it also like that we would have, in our cases, folders like orchestrator, queue integrations, and parsers, and in each we would have different different projects that we would like to create. So we would have an orchestrator, the orchestrator project, the RabbitMQ, and JSON.
That's okay. I agree with it.
In the end, that would be just copying Microsoft.
Yes.
Okay, so I will update the comment here. And I will assign it to you. What do you think about this? Can I do that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I will assign it to you, and you can later on start working on it, or right away after we make the priorities here, we can start doing the work basically, because I won't say that I have one in mind. I would do the PR build, and I would like to set up builds for this within GitHub, because I didn't do that, so I would like to do that.
I think initiate the project is about the whole project, about solution and those 3 projects, or
yeah, that's what I'm changing now, because
okay.
I think I made you the owner. And you can actually create a repository within Prognetics, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just please make sure. Well, we can change the namings later, but just name it prognetics.saga.
Okay, I will.
So create a Git repository is first. We would have a mono repo. I will remove this because we will do mono repo. Can I add another comment here or not? Okay, update, it's on you, and initiate the project, and it's also fine. And just to have everything under control, I will also post check how MS is doing it here. Boom. So this is on you. I'm wondering why this is always marked as draft. How to change this? Convert to issue. Okay.
Because we don't have a repository, so it's not
I'm not sure.
somehow assigned.
Do you think this is about that? That this project needs to be assigned to repository? Feels like this is something else. There are no, you can, okay, we can create issue, the issue will be here. Okay. Okay. Anyway, that's not important now. Seems like this will act as the board. As I said, more used to Azure DevOps, so you will have to forgive me for me navigating around this like I never touched it before is because I didn't. Okay, CI build with release artifact as the second one is fine. PR validation build would be the second one. Performance test, this is something that I would go like very late in the project. I would set up the tests project somewhere on the top because the PR validation build needs to run the tests. I mean, I assume that this is the same as the Azure DevOps, so I would just do regular expression around project that has tests in its name, and it will just execute the DLL on it. So I assume that
tests project for each project. Yes.
Yep, and I would say that let's focus first on unit tests, and let's create a convention to keep is as follows. Project name dot test. Do we want to separate the unit tests from the integration tests, etc.?
I think yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So example would be prognetics.saga.org illustrator.unit.tests.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. That's okay. That's okay conversion, I think.
See, we have a handshake here.
We could omit the unit, just tests, and the integration test would be integration test, but maybe it's a better idea. I don't know.
Because later on we can just swap this test type with anything else. That's why I wanted to. This will just be more readable or more keep the convention.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. PR validation build. When a PR is created and created and pass, yeah. Build with release artifact. Yeah. So okay, maybe not. Let's not precise as much here, because it is pretty much understandable, I think. With the release artifacts and this, I wonder if we should break it more further. Wait, let me add items here also. Create a NuGet entry for each
project. No, not project.
Well, it is for each project.
Well, yes, but we will have more project in the future. But for now, it's for each project.
Did I create it? Is it somewhere here? Okay, it didn't add itself. Okay. You get project feed for each of the libraries created. So that would be orchestrator, rabbit, MQ, and parser. Right. Okay, we've got it. We can move it a bit to the top somewhere. Because this should definitely be done before the CD, because CD means that we need to have this, so that works. Pretty self-explanatory. Performance test there, this is something for later. Isolation levels is something to consider later, because this is, well, pretty advanced feature. Retries on fails, I would also consider this later. Scaling scenarios also for later. Monitoring of the workflow. This is kinda connected with the SAGA log, but SAGA log is I will move SAGA log here, because we know that SAGA log is something to be definitely created before the performance tests. Monitoring of the workflow. Conventions are before performance test for sure. Plugins to work with different queues before the monitoring. I will just drag it to the top. Please don't be fixated on the order. I just want to first make sure that, because there are certain tasks that I'm pretty sure that we will do before doing, for example, performance tests. I would say that performance tests are actually like the point on this board that sets that whatever is after that is definitely for later. So kind of this is what I'm doing now. Persistent store here, this connected with the SAGA log. Cache, not yet.
It's for later.
Yeah.
It can be also later than performance test, because based on performance test we can decide we need cache. So.
Okay. So you mean to move it like that?
Yes.
Retrace on fail scaling. Description would be somewhere close with
I
the.
think retries on face is should be above performance test. I think.
Okay, because I know that there is somewhere a task about marking as failed is define how to tell if something has failed because we don't yet know how we would like to create this, so I would say that this has to be before this definitely. So I was kind of waiting to move it above. Okay, examples of usage would be here, but marking as fail is definitely higher. Marking as failed. Let's just move it to the top, because it happens that we have more tasks that we would like to start right away, rather on the bottom than on the top. So I can leave it as it is here, because we are not implementing any type of different queues right away. So I think let's just, it's after scaling scenario, so this is fine, we can prioritize this later. Think about this is something for later, something for later. Payload and compensation messages definitely above performance tests. Orchestrator extension method definitely over here. Definitely over the performance tests. Yep. Running the compensation. Yep. Configuring the runner. Compensation aggression. SAGA status. Model of SAGAs inside the system. JSON performance tests. Here. Read SAGA definitions. SAGA file refresh. Oop. Okay. Now we have some I think that we have moved everything at least to priority that more should be above the performance tests, and let's see how we can start. Marking as failed, this is tightly coupled. Plugins to work with different queues. What is here? Okay, I would rename it so it states that we should. This is the task is about the RabbitMQ integration. So maybe let's define here. Right, because save. So this is a bit more readable because there was one about an abstraction layer, right?
Right.
And I would like to find it. Where was it? Whoop. Okay, coolio. this is before this one, right? Because first we need to create the abstraction layer within Orchestrator that it can work with any type of plugin, basically, and then later on we are creating the RabbitMQ plugin. And when it comes to RabbitMQ, I would also include a research here. Because do we want to specifically work with the pub sub, or we need to figure out a pattern that we would like to have the message
Yes.
being sent on to if we should use specific topics, etc. So we need to consider this, maybe because this is very tightly coupled at this stage. Well, because we are not doing any like very detailed documentation around it or plan. Because maybe we can use, for example, topics that could replace something that we wanted to have in the model, for example, like, I don't know, something, just an idea, but that needs some reading.
So we need to find a way to communicate with Q and translate it into our orchestrator model, let's say, orchestrator interface.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. SAGA log. This is something that has to be done, I believe. Maybe I'll ask, what do you think? Should it be done before the any parsers, or before handling the messages?
I think it's maybe I'm wrong, but it's not very urgent, because for the start we even can persist data in memory. So
that's true. We can, as part of testing and how we work with this. That's true.
So maybe we can create first the memory storage, and maybe it's the very important, but create the specific storage related to a specific technology, like NoSQL database is for later, I think. We need to just abstract the storage, yes.
So then,
so SAGA log is quite important, but SAGA log should have different plugins. It's not so important.
It is, but it might be right away after. Well, no, wait. This is important, because we were looking at this, or at least I was looking at this from the perspective of that the customer might want to use different data store.
Yes.
But we can keep it for later.
Yeah, I think that the workflow is the more important, than this persistent layer, and we can move it below the RabbitMQ plugin.
That's true, because the SAGA log itself defines the schema or model, or the task is about how the model should look like. So this might be on the top, and that might be something at the bottom, but probably, well, definitely above the conventions and things like that. So let's keep it that way. Monitoring of the workflow. Tools to track every going orchestration. That's for later, I think.
Yes.
And that would be probably above the tests, but below the documents. Marking as failed. Retries on fails. Examples of the usage above the monitoring, below the descriptions. Configuration for the runner. SAGA status, model of SAGAs inside the system. That would be something that could be above here, right? Because this is related to what model SAGA will be translated to from the parsers. So this is connected to the parsers. This is tightly coupled. It's not, but it's related. Configuration for the runner and compensation aggression. This also defines how the running of the compensation is done. Because we definitely need to figure out when the compensation should happen. I mean, this should be above. This should be related to marking as failed. This is important because we can then run the compensation and do the compensation aggression.
Payload and compensate message is above, I think. This.
Yep. It would be here.
Yes.
Next SAGA step, probably here. Because it's going one by one. We are defining the model. We are first getting the schema for the parsers. Then we could probably define the parser. So where's the first parser? Right, so we could have it here because we will have the SAGA log that needs to it needs to hold the information about correlation ID and everything that might be stored inside so we are defining the model. Does it say it there? Schema or model? Yes. Then we are able to parse from the file into this model. Then we have it twice. So which one did I click? This one? No. Okay, I will remove this one or this one. Also, the question is if the SAGA log is something separate, or I would say that this is just a working name for our context. I would that would, from my perspective, that the SAGA log is just something that is defined inside the orchestrator. It's not a separate project.
Yes, it's inside. It's inside because this is a very important part of our orchestrator, and without SAGA log, it's not possible to do things because we need to persist some events inside to compensate messages, for example.
Yeah. Okay, I will remove this one then. And I will keep the SAGA log. But I will define here treat this not as separate project, but as a part of the like a DB context. Boom. Okay, we got this one. Define the parser. Did we define that there should be an abstraction layer over the queue, but there should be an abstraction layer over the parsers? But this can be just, well, this would be read from the config, I would say. I wouldn't. I have to be honest with you that the parsers are looking at me. I mean, I feel like this is an interesting task for me to pick up.
Okay.
but maybe you would like to pick it up. I don't know.
No, for me it's not so interesting. So.
Abstraction layer over the parsers. Maybe not a model, but JSON parser. That's the name of the task. And maybe not define, but create. Create a JSON parser. And that's it. So going back, so we would have RabbitMQ plugin. Should be here at the top. Okay. Those are pretty, most of them are pretty, I mean, most of those tasks are pretty standalone. I mean, someone can work on the RabbitMQ plugin, someone can work on the SAGA log, someone can work on the parsers, because they are kind of not connected to each other. I mean, the solve mechanism and how this should be done is not connected, because we can just create interfaces later on to connect this to everything. So it's I think fine from this perspective. I'm just thinking out loud.
We have to just create interfaces for orchestrator, and that will be okay. Some of the interfaces are inputs, some of the are outputs. So.
Yeah, but either way, like if we just have an interface, it can be used, and bam. I mean, that's it. Okay, so once we have the plugin for the queue, the log, the abstraction layer over the parsers, the JSON parser, then we need to process the payload and compensate message. So this means basically saving to the SAGA log, kinda. Then we need the processor, let's call it, to be able to execute the next SAGA step. We need to figure out how to mark as failed and how to run the compensation after marking this as failed. Then compensation aggression, because I imagine maybe we'll have a different idea, so we can whoever will pick this will make a decision on because I imagine that this needs to be in a certain period of time. So for example, if we don't receive a message that something has been done in X period of time, then we are rolling back the transaction.
Yes.
But maybe there is a different way to do that. but yeah, I would leave it. Later on, retries on fails, how they would work, orchestrator extension method. So this is
About the previous question, I think we can also consider something like failed message, something like that, with correlation ID. Yeah. And if we can stop the transaction if failed message is received, or there is a timeout.
But yeah, exactly this is what would happen. I would imagine that
Mm-hmm.
on the client side, when they are receiving the
Uh-huh.
create this. Wait. I will maybe show a picture. Where is the picture? Wait. It's on the Miro. Okay. So I would imagine that within the service number 2, when it receives the validate inventory, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it fails here somewhere in the service 2, there is,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, some kind of try catch clause for the validate inventory. If there is an exception thrown, then instead of validate inventory done, it's launching validate inventory failed.
Yes. Or even maybe just failed message, Saga failed message with correlation ID, because
Oh yeah, you're
uh,
right.
that
That would
will
be
be
easier.
enough.
That would
Yeah.
be easier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait. Let's.
Yeah, we can write it down.
We need to write it down, but
Mm.
in marking as failed, or in retries, or something else.
Marking as failed is
Mm-hmm.
most appropriate.
Because the orchestrator would understand how to roll back, because it will check what has been launched, and it doesn't care on which step it was failed, because then it will start rolling back.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically decides when to run the next steps. So if it didn't run the next step, then everything should be fine. But now I thought about a corner case in which is that probably is not possible. That orchestrator would receive that something has been done after failing, that it has failed, and then it received a done message.
I think that's a bug.
That's a bug. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a corner case.
Mm-hmm. So, if we have a message in not from start but from the middle of transaction, we can just ignore it, because if it failed, we can consider that transaction as say completed, and we don't want to react on events which are reference the completed transactions.
Yeah, that's why. Well, I just kept it in a simpler words that make sure once something is failed, it won't be later processed.
Mm-hmm.
So that is connected with SAGA status. Well, so I'll bring it a bit more up. Running the compensation, compensation aggression, retries on fails, orchestrator extension method, because I would imagine that it can be run, well, like an identity server, I would say. Maybe, well, I'm saying something that I have knowledge of from 4 or 5 years ago, so maybe this changed, but I imagine that there is, as described, I think, an extension method that it starts listening, etc.
Mhm.
Orchestrator receives an event. I would do it here because this is together with the RabbitMQ.
Mhm.
That is just as I said with precising this included research about picked up. This is both with this one. Like they are tied together, I would say so. And now all the project managers. Oh, someone is watching us. Hi, or I just noticed. Um, Project managers probably won't agree with me. This is probably not how it should be done, but well, we have some tasks that are dependent on each other. If you have any idea how we can break this down further, maybe this is possible. But also, from my experience, if you're trying to be more and more granular in defining the tasks, is also bad, because then the tasks are becoming so small that they are interfering with people start interfering with each other's work. So this starts to be an issue then. Okay. Retries on face, extension method configuration for the runner. This is also based on each other. Read SAGA definitions. And SAGA file refresh. I would say
it's related with JSON parser.
yes.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I will paste it here. And the file refresh. No, file refresh should be after the configuration, because we need to specify what we would like to have in the configuration. So and this is kind of connected to this. So boom, this also should be here. Does it look okay now?
Can you move up?
From the top, you would like to go from the top?
Yes. Okay. Abstraction layer is a little bit similar to abstraction layer over the parsers to read SAGA definitions. I think because we have a parsers to
No.
read.
This is
No?
something different, because the abstraction layer would be only about creating the interfaces that would allow users to read, or well, the app to read using the different. It's called, like in Serilog, you have those syncs. I don't know if you used it. Serilog is this library for, well, logging purposes, and then you have different NuGets that are called syncs, and you can install different syncs for. If you would like to log to console, then you're downloading a sync that is related to console. If you would like it to post to the app insights, then you're downloading the app insights one. If to a file, then to a file, etc. So I was thinking more in this way. So we are creating inside the orchestrator a way to use different parsers. Then we are creating a specific parser, and then reading the SAGA definition would be also something around like like I would imagine that this file is stored somewhere. So maybe as it's here, where was it? Read SAGA definitions. I would imagine that this is about that it will read from a CDN or from a specific place. So this place would need to be defined. What do you think?
Okay. I don't know right now.
Because there's still like different things, I would say, because one is about creating interfaces, one is about creating a particular implementation for the specific file, and then there is a place how it should read the files. So it is different.
Okay, I see.
Maybe we are missing some description.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But so reading SAGA definitions, it's about models we will have, or it's another task. I mean, the model of the definition of configuration for our orchestrator.
But there is, I think now we have a misconception in something, because this read SAGA definitions is, I imagine that it will be some kind of file, this JSON or YAML or whatever you will want it to be, right? But then this file needs to be placed somewhere, and this read mechanism is about reading this file from this place.
Okay.
And only about that, not reading into a model, not parsing, not doing anything like that. Just read the file. Just get the data.
I understand. Okay.
Either way, it could read it from the drive.
Okay, so we need, the configuration model to read something to configuration, and where we have this configuration model.
The configuration is at the bottom, but I believe that at the beginning this can be just made that read once. It's read once while you start, because in the end there is the refresh mechanism that needs to be considered later on.
Yeah, but we still need the model that orchestrator will process to.
You mean from the SAGA log, right?
Yeah.
So the SAGA log.
How to move events and something like that. How the workflow is. Yeah. What is a workflow? Yes. Well, we need a model for definition for this. I think it's very important thing, and
but this is something that would be in here. Either this can come out from the SAGA log that is supposed to define the schema or model, and then the parser itself has a proposal how the model can look like, and then later on, because in the end it doesn't really matter. This can be entirely different model, the SAGA log, from what we will be reading in the JSON, but in the end we can, for example, use automapper or something like that and map objects into what SAGA log or the context will understand.
Okay.
So I would say this is secondary.
Okay, so
Right? Or
yeah,
not?
I think that's okay. So model of the Saga log will be in the Saga log task, and the model in configuration model will be in the read Saga definitions or create a JSON parser.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I understand. Everything is clear.
Okay. Then moving on, because you wanted to check again, I think we ended then here, right? So the next would be the payload compensate, running the next Saga step, marking as failed, and at this point you have everything in the database or in the context, right? In the Saga log, you have everything in here for running the next step, marking as failed, running the compensation, changing the Saga status, retrying on failing, and then later for configuring the library running itself, the extension method, configuration for the runner, Saga file refresh, compensation aggression, different plugins for the persistent stores, conventions, descriptions, and examples of usage, and then the monitoring, and then later on the tasks that we can consider how they should be done. Looks okay, more or less.
Yeah, more or less it's okay.
Okay. So,
So we can, assign ourselves into the
yeah,
specific
I'm
task.
trying to figure out because I mean, in the end, we should go one by one. I mean, in the end, if you would like to, for example, handle now the setup of the whole project, I would assign to you also to create, because you will either way you will be creating those projects. You could create the tests once,
Uh,
and I could start working
um,
on the PRs.
about tests project, what framework we want to use?
I have
Mm,
experience with XUnit.
okay, it's that's okay. It's my favorite framework, I think. So XUnit.
Okay. Uh, and I will assign to myself the PR validation build.
Mhm.
And I will just, because I believe that we should go from the top to bottom, but once, because I don't know if you have, well, you can tell me later on the chat or something if you would like to uh, specifically do some kind of tasks, because we can assign it, because from my perspective I can pick as it goes to create the whole CI CD. I don't think we necessarily need CD right away, but we might have a definition and it will just not be hooked up yet, but we will have a definition for this. Uh,
Okay.
and then later there is, well, this group of tasks. I I don't really like that we cannot like have something like we cannot have parent child here. Maybe this is possible. Some, well, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That I'm used to that in the Azure DevOps we have this parent-child relations, and we can create this nice tree structure to
Mm-hmm.
kind of have like a bag for the tasks, and in here we cannot really do this, or I don't know how. Maybe I'll figure this out later somehow.
Mm. Maybe if it will be the issue, maybe then we can.
Maybe, yeah, that's what I had in thought, that maybe maybe this is something that we'll have after creating an issue. Well, either way, the CI would be grouped together. This ones would be grouped together, and then RabbitMQ tied together, SAGA log, a separate thing, and then the parsers, and then the payloads, etc., etc. So yeah, as you please.
So, I'm interested in I think SAGA log. Yes, and so it's only one task related to SAGA log.
Yep, because in the end we moved everything in here. That it needs to hold information about SAGA status and running compensation operation for specific correlation ID. Define how the schema or model should look like from the persistent store perspective. Treat this not as a separate project but as part of an orchestrator, blah 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 blah.
Okay. So it's related to orchestrator also. Okay. So Rabbit and the Q things. I'm interested in the Q things. To be honest, so I know you want to work on parsers, so that will be for you. And orchestrator receives an event is also very related to Q.
But this is together.
Okay.
I would say right away that those are together, and this is together. Like 3 of those. That's why I wanted to have like bags, so we could like mark bags. But I would say that those are those are mine.
Okay.
Basically, those are yours. Okay, maybe let's right away assign them. We are not. We are, because usually what I would do is that we are a Scrum team, and we are not necessarily assigning tasks to people, but we would go from the top to the bottom. But in here we don't really have to deliver on a specific timeline, so we don't necessarily need to prioritize like this. What I would like to avoid right away, I can tell you, is that if there is something assigned to you, and for example we are in a place like this now, please don't put SAGA log first. Please work on those from the top to bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know that maybe the SAGA log would be, for example, would be more interesting, and you have all those at the top. So please, this is the first one. So the same is as I would probably like to do parsers first. No, because the first is the validation builds, the CIs and stuff like that. So let's try to keep the order within this. Okay, what I would do next, because I think this is enough or not. I don't know how fast you will want to go through this, but I wouldn't treat it as a race, honestly, because I would like to do some programming over the stream, and probably what we would do also now. Is that I would ask you to create the repositories, and I would probably start just working on the PR builds on the stream, and later on
Um,
on the next ones when you're back, because Shimon, either we are making the stream on Tuesday or Shimon won't be here on Monday. So later on we'll make a decision on, or we'll basically review our progress. We'll see how it's going, and because I would like to have some coding on the stream, but I'm yet trying to figure out how it should work. I mean, because we cannot simultaneously show two screens or something like that. That's what I was figuring out. Maybe you have an idea about this.
so we can show our screen. Half of time will be for me and half of time will be for you. And we'll present what we done before the stream, and we'll code something.
On the
But
stream.
for on the screen, so we'll continue the work like usual. And we will have half of time for me and half time for you. What do you
Okay,
think?
perfect. This works. Let's do it like that. That sounds awesome. I did. That was so simple that I didn't think about this. Honestly.
Yeah, and we will also know what is work for another person. Yes, how it's going
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
with the.
That's what I was thinking. That we should definitely have some kind of status on the stream,
Mhm.
and but I
Yeah, so
didn't
it will
do that.
be the status with live coding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great idea, I think.
Well, there are two options now. Either we are starting on the Git repos and starting to research the builds on my side, or we can wrap up for today quickly, and I would expect you to create the Git repositories so I can start working on this on the next stream. And either way, I would then show people from the well, I would show people on one stream how to do those builds when I would have created the repos.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm going to create the Git repository after the stream, I think.
Okay.
You can finish.
Okay. So yeah, we won't make a long stream today. Let's wrap up for today. But as you can see, we have the priorities and all the things that we want to make in order now. We have a common understanding within our small team, but I believe that we do understand each other and what we would like to build. We have things in a bit more detail inside the tasks. We have assigned the tasks, and first Shimon will create off the stream the Git repo and the structure of the folders. So on the next Monday, I will show you how to make the builds from the PR to continuous delivery to in this particular case to the NuGet feed. And that's it. That's the plan.
That's it.
Okay, so have a nice evening. Cheers and bye bye. Gonna see my hand.